For our initial chain, we're using a chainless foundation, so you're going to make your slip knot, and then we're going to chain 2. You're going to go into the first chain of the row, pull up a loop, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2. For the next row, we're going to insert our hook into this bottom stitch, so the first stitch of the row, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over, pull through 2. You'll need to repeat this 83 times so that you have 83 rows, or if you want to look at it as stitches instead, you'll have 83 stitches. This is going to create a hat that's going to fit a head circumference of between 18 to 25 inches or 46 to 63 centimeters approximately. So now beginning for row 1, you're going to begin with a half double crochet on the first stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch. Once you have 3 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. So it's a yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 3. Repeat this in every stitch of the row. For row number 2, you're going to need to chain 2 stitches, and then beginning on the first stitch of the row, half double crochet 32 stitches. For this next part, you are going to need the chart, which has the little ghost image on it. Now, you can find that on my website if you want a printed copy of it. I'm going to put it here in the corner of the screen as we crochet along. But when you get the chart and print it out, you're going to see it's got these 2 little rows of numbers. They're labeled for right-handed and left-handed crocheters, and that's because there's some variation to the stitch counts at a couple of different places along this pattern. Anyway, what you're going to do is just fold it. So fold the page using whichever one of the rows of numbers you need, and there you go. You can just fold it up as you go and keep track of your rows. Once you've crocheted your 32 half double crochets, we're going to need to take a look at our chart. We're also going to need to crochet 1 more half double crochet in gray, which I'll put the image of the chart here in a second, but you'll be able to see the color switch. To switch color, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, and pull up a loop. Once you've got your loop on your hook, you're going to yarn over in the new color and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now for the rest of this, well, not the rest of the project, but the rest of the image, you are going to have to carry your yarn. You can carry the tail end of the yellow yarn if you want to, or, drop it and weave it in later, but you do have to carry the gray yarn. Now, if you take a look at the chart, we're going to need 3 stitches in yellow. So we're going to half double crochet 2 stitches, and on the 3rd one, we're going to work a color switch, and we're going to go back to gray. So you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, and pull up a loop in color 2. And then you're going to switch your yarn, and with color 1, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to need to crochet 4 stitches in gray. As you crochet your gray stitches, you will have to carry your yellow yarn. So again, that's 4 stitches in gray with your color switch happening on the 4th stitch. Now for those of you that are a little more advanced and are comfortable reading the chart, you can just finish the rest of the image. When you get to that last yellow stitch, which is stitch 18, do your color switch and then drop your yellow yarn. Don't carry it through the rest of the row. The rest of your stitches are going to be half double crochets in gray. For your next row, you're going to chain 2, beginning on the first stitch, half double crochet 32 stitches. On that 32nd stitch, you're going to do a color switch back to yellow and then follow the chart. You will find the timestamps for the rest of the tutorial in the description box, and if not, you should have little chapters at the bottom of the screen that you could just kind of skip to so you can get to the next section if you'd like to just advance a little quicker. So for my more advanced crocheters, you've probably already done this part, but for all of my beginners, you're going to end the row in a half double crochet and begin the next row with your chain 2. You're going to turn your work around, and beginning on the first stitch of the row, you're going to half double crochet 32 stitches, That last stitch, the 32nd stitch, will need to be a color switch back to yellow. So at stitch number 32, if you're crocheting right-handed or left-handed, there's going to be a different stitch count for you. So for the left-handed crocheters, you're going to switch to your yellow yarn and begin stitching your yellow stitches. For the right-handed crocheters, you're going to do one more stitch in gray and then switch to your yellow. So it's 33 stitches in gray and then you switch to yellow. And for left-handed, again, it's 32 and then yellow. I ended up reading this the opposite way. So I ended up reading my chart as if I was a left-handed crocheter. Yeah. So I ended up doing that additional color stitch at the end. So instead of doing the 33 stitches at the beginning, I did 32 yellow and then I did 33 at the end. So, you know, it happens. But continue following the chart, doing your color switches as needed. Once you get to the end, remember to do your last double, your half double crochet with your yellow and drop your yellow yarn. That way the rest of the row you crochet it in gray without carrying the rest of your yarn. Right, so for rows number 3 through 5, you're going to do just your chain 2 at the beginning of the row, beginning on that first stitch, half double crochet. You're going to crochet 32 stitches, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. It's 32 stitches, then a color switch. You're going to do 19 stitches in yellow, and then again your color switch to gray and finish off the rest of the row. So that's rows 3 through 5. And then for rows 6 through 9, you're going to do 32 stitches, switch to orange, 19 stitches in orange, and then finish off the rest of the row in gray. And then finally, row 10 of the chart, you're going to switch to white. So it's 32, 19 in white, and then the rest of the row in gray. So I went ahead and crocheted rows 11 through 19 using the color switches as dictated on the chart. If you need to see the written pattern, the link is down in the description box below. Otherwise, you can rewind the video and pause it at the chart and use it as you need. Once you've crocheted that, If you're going to make a slouchy beanie like the one that I made, you're going to crochet 9 to 10 rows in your base color, so in gray. You might not have enough for 10, you might, I don't know, depends on how, how big your stitching is. But crochet through almost the end of, your gray yarn. If you want a fitted hat, so you don't want it to be as tall, then only crochet 5 rows in gray. Once you crochet whatever number of rows you want, you're going to chain 1 and cut a long tail end of thread, as you see that I did here. You're going to use this to stitch your hat closed. So for this, you're just going to fold your hat in so the narrow ends are joined in the center like this, and then use whatever stitch you prefer. I'll do a little bit of a close-up so you can see the stitch I'm using. Feel free to use whatever stitch you want. Then you're going to have to go through and weave in all of your tail ends. So all the different color switches that you did, as well as the tail end that's going to be left behind from stitching your hat closed. So now for the brim, I'm going to be crocheting my first, or I guess my initial chain here along the seam, along the back part of the hat. You can start this wherever you want, it doesn't matter, but we're going to begin with a chain of 10 stitches. We're going to be using some Tunisian crochet techniques for this, so you're going to be using the knit stitch and the purl stitch, and because we're not making a very wide piece of fabric, it's only 10 stitches, you don't have to switch your hook to a Tunisian crochet hook. You can just use the same hook that we've been using for the hat to crochet your brim. Once you crochet your stitch of, or what is it, your chain of 10 stitches, we're going to begin with what is called a foundation row. So we're going to cast on our first stitch by inserting our hook into that second chain. So the chain that's right next to our hook, you're going to insert the hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Leave the loops on your hook as you see here. By the time you're done with your chain, you should have 10 loops on your hook. When you cast on another loop into the base of the hat, you're going to end up with 11 loops on your hook. So I've got 10 right here, and then we have to cast on here into the base of the hat. So go into the next available stitch, and then just insert your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop for a total of 11 loops. And now for the return pass, you're going to yarn over and pull 2 of those loops off of your hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. You're going to do this until you are left with just 1 loop on your hook. So here's a look at the foundation row. Now these stitches are made up of 2 legs. So you've got the back leg, which is back here, and the front leg. For the knit stitch, you have to go between the 2 legs of the stitch towards the back of the fabric. So beginning on the second vertical stitch of the row, so which is that one, you're going to insert your hook between the 2 legs of the stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. You'll do this in every vertical stitch along the base, or along the foundation row, I should say. And then when you get to the end, you're going to cast on into the base of the hat. So just like we did in the previous row, you're going to insert your hook into the next available stitch along the bottom part of the hat, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Now the return pass is the same throughout the entire brim, so it's just yarn over, pull through 2 until you are left with 1 loop on your hook. And that's what your fabric's going to look like so far. Now for our next row, we're going to work a purl stitch, which is a reverse yarn over, so you're going to pull the yarn in front of your hook, insert your hook behind the front leg of the stitch, and pull your yarn so it's in the back of the hook so you can do a regular yarn over and pull up a loop. So we'll take a look at it a few more times in case anyone needs to see it a few. But you do a reverse yarn over and then pull your yarn to the back, regular yarn over, and pull up a loop. So purl stitch in each of the vertical stitches along this row, and then when you get to the end, you're going to cast on into the base of the hat again, and then just work a regular return pass. You're going to do 2 rows of purl. So complete this return pass and then cast on 1 more row of purl. For the rest of the brim, you're going to alternate between 2 rows of knit and 2 rows of purl. All right, once you've crocheted the rest of your brim, it should look a little like this. Now, the final row you're going to have to crochet is a bind off, and that's going to close off the spacing between the stitches as you see here. If you ended up on a purl row, so your next row is going to be a purl, you're going to cast on a purl stitch. When you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to close as a single crochet. So instead of casting on all of those loops, you're going to close the stitching as you go. If you ended up on a knit row, you're going to do the same, only with a knit stitch. So knit, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So again, it's cast on a knit stitch, and then yarn over, pull through 2. So whichever stitch that you need to use for your next row, go with that one, and that's the bind off you will use. When you get to the end, also cast on into that final stitch along the base of the hat. You're going to chain 1 and cut a tail end of yarn that's long enough to use as thread to stitch off the bottom part of your brim. Once that's closed, weave in any remaining tail ends, and you're ready to cinch the top of your hat. Before you cinch the top of the hat closed, decide whether or not you want a pom-pom at the top of it. I do have a tutorial for these. The only thing I didn't add to the tutorial was a button, but that's because I started adding the button a few years after I'd already filmed the tutorial, so, you know, add a button if you use a fur pom-pom. You'll be able to take the pom off the hat when you wash it, because if you don't, it's a nightmare. You get fur everywhere. Just learn from my mistakes. Don't do it to yourself. All right, so to cinch, you're just going to need a long tail end of thread. I doubled it up because this is all the gray yarn I had left, so I figured I'd use it for the cinching part. You can just use a single thread of yarn. It's not a big deal. All you need to do is space out your stitching to every, I don't know, 2 or 3 stitches along the top of the hat as you see here. Make your way all the way around the top circumference of the hat. Once you've made it all the way around, you're going to pull on the threads to close the top part of the hat. So that's the cinching part. If you're adding the pom-pom, if you're going to just stitch it on, you can stitch it on at this point, tighten the top part, knot it, and stitch it. If you're using a pom with a button, make sure that the button fits through the top of the hat. So don't cinch it too tight so you can use the top of the hat as a buttonhole. You might have to play around with this a little bit because the button sizes might be different, but whatever size it is you need, make sure you double knot that and weave in all of your ends. And there you have it. There's our tutorial for today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. For the free pattern, just go onto my website. If you'd like to purchase the paper pattern, that's available too. And, you know, thanks for supporting the channel if you do. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in the next tutorial.